Hello and welcome to the Cross-Dressing Lifestyle channel. In today's video we're going to be having a look at the very sensitive issue of gaffs and tucking. Now I'm going to be having a quick overview of 5 particular methods that I've used in the past. Some are a lot more successful than others, and I must dare say some of them are a little bit more painful than others. So if you'd like to find out about those 5 particular methods, please join me after the break. Hello, welcome back. And I'm going to start this review really with probably is the most contentious method used. It's certainly the most, I would say, the most effective, but it also comes with a lot of warning to start off with, and that is a method known as taping. Now obviously I can't show you how that's done because I think I'll be breaking quite a few rules here on YouTube and it would be of an adult nature, but I'm sure that we can work it out with a few descriptive phrases. Now what taping really involves is a couple of things. Obviously the tape itself, and I think we've all heard of this stuff. This is called duct tape. It's a very aggressive and strong type of tape, so that's what we'll be using for this particular method. I will go through it in a bit more detail in a minute. First couple of precautions. I really don't recommend this method because it is fraught with a bit of danger, but in saying that, it is the most effective way of doing it. So let's try and go into as much detail and be as safe as possible. First of all, the initial recommendation is to reduce your hair around the particular genital area to as much as possible. Shave that off if you possibly can, because having that gaffer tape stuck to your hair, and when you get it off, it can be quite painful no matter how gently you try to remove it. So that will be the first thing I would say. The second thing is that the ultimate way of doing it that I've learned over the years is one that involves, how would I say, dedication to the cause. Because even using gaffer tape, when it gets really, really hot and you sweat an awful lot in that particular region, the gaffer tape can go bing and it can come off. So what I've developed over the years of doing this, when I've had to do it, is I actually spray the area, and I don't recommend doing this, please, but it is an option, by using medical adhesive spray just around the area. First of all, letting that get a bit tacky and then applying the tape. Now, if you're not wincing too much, I know it's not the best thing to do, but it's actually sometimes incredibly effective, and I will get on to how you remove it as well later on, so don't fear. So what I would do would be to get some standard gaffer tape. This one here is just black carpet tape, I think, and I cut off a length around about 12-14 inches long. Now I don't want to get too graphic here, but this is basically what you do is you actually start to attach it just above your, just below your belly button, about halfway between your belly button and your private part. You then purse it backwards or point it backwards between the cheeks of your bottom, and then you slide the tape underneath between the cheeks and adhere the other end to your back area or your bottom area. Now that would get the main member all sorted out and tucked in nicely, but we've also got our 2 little objects either side. Now what you have to do is have to sort of point them or push them back up into, there's a little cave area, I suppose you'd like to call it. Your balls do actually push back up into there, sit in that sort of area quite comfortably after a while. And then what you do is you take another length around about 12 inches long, 14 inches, and cross it across the balls. Basically one piece on the left and one piece on the right. So you make yourself very, very flat and you tuck it all together. Now I'm sorry if my description isn't exactly or is a bit too graphic, but it does work, and the added adhesive spray really does stick it down, particularly useful if you're very, very hot in the summer. There are obvious precautions you should take here. It's not the best thing in the world, as I said that, and I keep reiterating that. It's not something you want to wear for a long period of time or do for a long period of time, because basically you can't go to the toilet, which is one of the major disadvantages with it. But it's probably the most effective way of tucking in something that's incredibly tight on you, and you can see all the lines if you're wearing any undergarments. Now when it comes to getting it off, you can use the medical adhesive spray to ease it off, or probably better still use baby oil of some description and just soak it a little bit and take it off very gently. Don't wow, pull it off like it would be with a band-aid, because woohoo, you scream, I can tell you. So just take yourself very, very gently. Now that's probably the most effective method you'll ever get to having a big flat area there. It takes a little bit of practice and there's a lot of risk involved in doing it. It can be incredibly uncomfortable at times, and I wouldn't recommend you to do it very often, but it is, as I say, very effective. So that covers the sort of aspects of taping down, which I only really go to as a very last resort, to be honest, because I find it a little bit too painful, but there are one or two little outfits I have got that really do benefit from that particular method. So there is another option I found much, much better, certainly cleaner and almost as effective, and that's by using a household good that you've probably all got at home. This little stuff here called cling film, believe it or not. This makes absolutely wonderful gaff, and the way that it works is that you take your length of or your tube of cling film and you crisscross it over between your thigh and your legs after you've pointed Percy backwards, so you're actually making yourself a see-through pair of panties. Just twiddle the ends up on the side and you can pop in on top a fairly tight pair of ladies' underwear, and Bob's your uncle. You've got everything under control. Again, like the previous example of the taping method, the only problem there is that should you wish to go to the toilet, the cling film is then redundant after you've taken it off, because you can't use it again. So like its predecessor, it has its disadvantages, but if you're just doing it for maybe a photo shoot, or you're probably going to be wearing something for maybe less than an hour or so, it's a very, very effective method, and it's dirt cheap. So consider that one. So what other alternatives do we have that are a bit more, how would I say, give you more freedom? The first one would be by using one of these commercial type garments here called a gaff. Now what this consists of, it looks very much like a lady's G-string, and it is. This bottom bit here goes between the cheeks of your bottoms, and this reinforced area here, it does all the work. Essentially what you do again is you point your membrane backwards, and this whole area in the front here will hold it and retain it in place. Now these need to be fairly tight and fairly snugly fit. A lot of manufacturers, or a lot of places you buy them, they will give you a size chart so you can work out your size. I always recommend, well for myself anyway, to go one size smaller than my normal waist. In this instance, my normal male waist, which seems to be expanding by the month, is currently 32 inches, and when I look it up, this makes me a small, which I have mixed feelings about, but it's a fact. So I get a small one of these. I've got one in black, I've also got them in nude, and I've got a white one as well for lighter colour garments. But the advantage with this particular one is it's pretty strong. It does hold me into place, but more importantly, if I ever want to go to the toilet or anything else, I can just undo it, go to the loo and put it back into place. So from that aspect, it's really, really good. I prefer, if I'm really honest, to wear a gaff than I do to tape or tuck with the cling film. Now these are a little bit expensive, so what I've done is actually I make my own gaffs these days, and it's quite simple, and it's something that I do quite regularly, and it is something that you've got a lot of things at home that you probably don't use anymore, and it takes about 10-15 minutes at the most. Here I have a pair of my Thunder Panty male pants, and what I'm really looking for here is just the band width here, this elasticated bit. So I'm going to make myself my own gaff, and it's quite simple. What I'm going to do is find obviously a sharp pair of scissors here, and I'm just going to cut about 1/4 inch away from the band itself, all the way along. So hopefully I can do that, and might not be able to see it quite on this particular camera, but we'll try and catch hold of it. So I'm just going to cut along there as quickly as humanly possible. So there we go, in traditional Blue Peter style. I've just cut away the actual band itself. So now I've got a band here that I know goes around my normal my normal male waist size. So that's the band itself. Now what I also need is something to use as a method of going around my manhood area. So I take an old sock here, And I'm just going to cut the foot part off. So I want this tubular section here. So let's just pop that off. So I'll just cut that off. So basically what I'm left with now is the band from my waist of my pants and a little tube area here from a discarded pair of socks. So what I really want to do is just thread the band through the sock area, like so. So if you can imagine that this is your legs, and this bit here, once I spread it out, will act as the gaff area there. So I put it through my legs and I tuck myself backwards through here. Now this is a very cheap, because it's basically cost you nothing, and it's a very good cheap DIY solution to the problem. So that's a very workable way of creating your own gaffs in a way. 5-minute job and you've got one. I'm forever throwing socks away and forever throwing my pants away, so I have an abundance of material around, which means I can change it quite regularly, and it's good for hygiene. So that's my tip of the day. I would make my own to start with and see how that goes. And finally, we have this little beautiful sort of garment here. Although not actually designed as a gaff, it is actually designed as a butt lifting garment, as far as I can remember. It's a long time ago I got one of those. I think I paid somewhere around about, I don't know, $18, $20 for it. I got one in nude, but it's a very effective at sort of keeping your nether region under control, and it's very flattering and very flattening at the same time. So as a alternative, a relatively cheap alternative, you might want to consider using that as a gaff. So that really concludes our little review today. All that I'd like to say is, if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing to our channel. We would love to have you on board. Please stay with us and stay gorgeous.